Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Agent Carter episode 4 video. So we had a Generalissimo sighting, we got to see Dominic Cooper again, we got a lot of new cool info on Leviathan, and Peggy's new neighbor, Dottie. Dottie was actually a really big one, so I'm going to start with her first. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. So here we go. So the showrunners confirmed after the episode that Dottie is part of the KGB Black Widow program, or what will become the Black Widow program. I feel like people saw her do that leg move and it was like, that looked exactly like Scarlett Johansson, so of course it's Black Widow. So if you came away from the episode thinking that, you were 100% right. So just to explain the Black Widow program in the comics, it's actually pretty cool. They've retconned the Black Widow character's history a couple times, so the Black Widow program came after they created the Black Widow character. So rewind to World War II. In the context of the show, the Soviets are the new looming threat, not Hydra and the Nazis. The end of World War II kickstarted the Cold War. Leviathan is behind the crazy typewriters, so they're one of the big villain groups. We know that. The Black Widow program is completely separate from that in the comics. That's a KGB organization. Originally, the Black Widow character started in the 1960s. She went on to have all kinds of adventures with Hawkeye and the Avengers. In 2004, they retconned her backstory. In the new continuity, she was taken by the Soviets as a child. She was an orphan and inducted into Operation Black Widow. We actually got some Black Widow flashbacks in the Avengers 2 trailer, so because it's relevant, I'm just going to use them when I talk about the Black Widow program. So her handlers took her to a place called Department X, this place here, with a bunch of other female orphans, brainwashed them, and then trained them as assassins. So whenever we're seeing this in the trailer, and she has those really creepy sounding lines with the bangs, that's what's happening. They're brainwashing her. As part of that, each of the Black Widow operatives gets false memories implanted. Black Widow thinks that she used to be a ballerina, so that's why we see these ballerina scenes in the Avengers 2 trailer. She's just remembering false memories. Dottie on Agent Carter is just an early version of that Black Widow program. She also thinks she's a dancer too. I would assume they give them dancing skills if they're going to implant them with those memories. If they're going to talk about the origin of S.H.I.E.L.D., why not talk about the origin of the Black Widow program? There's just nice narrative symmetry. I know everyone wants to know, are we going to see the Winter Soldier on Agent Carter? I'm totally not expecting it just because Sebastian Stan is a pretty big movie actor now, so he's pretty busy. And I think that they're done filming Agent Carter. I think they've finished the finale already. So of all the characters from the current films that could cross over on Agent Carter, Winter Soldier is just the best option, just because he's one of the few that are the same age in the past as they are in the future. So if you want to hold out hope for Sebastian Stan on Agent Carter, they could do it at some point. As for what Dottie is doing so close to Peggy, my guess is that she's just acting as a normal KGB spy trying to infiltrate the SSR, and maybe Howard Stark's inner circle. It's just like the Soviets wanting to know what's going on. That doesn't make her Peggy's enemy or anything like that, but she's not her friend either. So moving on to top 5 moments from the episode. Number 5, welcome back Howard Stark. It's a shame they don't use more Dominic Cooper on the show, but I totally understand why. He's primarily a film actor, he's usually busy doing that stuff, and he's way more expensive than normal TV guest stars. You also have to consider how sometimes he can overpower the narrative. He's almost like a supernatural character. Like, look at his supernatural abilities with women. Like, he has some sort of pheromone that no women can resist. And he can genius up any device that he wants. Like, he just magics up doomsday devices like they're candy. Like, oops, one fell out of my pocket. So using him all the time would be like putting Thor in Daredevil. It would become like the Thor show with Daredevil his sidekick. The whole opening sequence was a really nice soft reveal too. I felt like they gave Peggy Carter that Winter Soldier action scene, like the boat scene from the beginning where he parkours the shit out of everyone on the boat. Moving on to number 4, nobody cares about Agent Sousa, and he is sad. Just look at that sad puppy dog face. I mean, admittedly, I'm not rooting for him as much as I think the show wants me to. They're positioning him as a good person, but he's just not quite there yet. The role he's filling right now is like the only person inside the SSR that's not a complete bag of dicks. I won't start rooting for him till he starts helping Peggy, which I think is actually coming soon. I mean, eventually he's going to find out who the woman with the dark hair is. The one mysteriously doing all their police work for them. I love how none of the other agents question the anonymous tips regarding doomsday weapons. It would be like someone handing you a bunch of nuclear missiles and you not saying, I wonder what's going on here. This seems a little strange. The scene in the interrogation room was probably one of his best scenes from the series so far. He gets a lot more sympathetic, and we actually learned that he can swing a mean crutch. So I would really like to see him in some more unorthodox fighting scenes. And I do want him to join Team Peggy really soon. Moving on to number 3, Mr. Mink versus Dottie. Totally awesome Black Widow style takedown. You know, even if you didn't know she was part of the Black Widow program, the move she did here with her legs is just like Scarlett Johansson did in Iron Man 2 and then again in Avengers. I thought that he might be a comic book character, but all I could find for Mink was a female character named Julie Steele, so Mr. Mink seems like a new character the show created and then promptly killed off. I did really like his automatic pistol scene. As cool as all the Stark tech is in present day, seeing all the classic tech, like all the iterations and gadgets they make, is really cool. Number 2, the massacre at Finau teases a deeper Leviathan plot. So this was a little harder to follow, Agent Dooley's mission. If you're confused, Dooley went to Nuremberg to talk to a Nazi to find out what the government was trying to cover up at the Battle of Finau. He has no idea what Leviathan is, but all the dead people on his board are tied to Leviathan. It's just the SSR people haven't figured it out yet. So it's revealed there was no Battle of Finau. By the time the Nazis got there, all the Russian troops had been massacred. I think it all points to Leviathan messing around with their own crazy technology, like maybe they did a weapons test, or they're testing a super soldier serum, or some crazy Crimson Dynamo suit precursor. It seemed like there might have been a revolt, like it was something inside the Russian army. Maybe like a Hydra Nazi situation. If you remember in the first Captain America movie, Red Skull rebelled against Hitler and the Nazi Party and kind of broke Hydra off as its own organization. So Leviathan could be doing the same thing with the Soviet army. It's just that in the comics, Leviathan is like a Soviet version of Hydra. They do learn that Howard Stark visited the battlefield a day after the massacre, so he could have been just trying to figure out what kind of weapon was used. It could be more stolen Stark tech. We'll probably find out more about that in next week's episode because they're going to Russia, like they're literally going to Russia with the Howling Commandos. And my number 1 moment, Howard Stark has a vial of Captain America's blood. The way I took this in the context of the show is that they're just going to try and use the blood to reproduce the super soldier serum, a derivative, or just outright clone Captain America. There have been several versions of the super soldier serum in the Marvel comics, but in present day, like right now in the comics, the Falcon is Captain America. He took over as Captain America from Steve Rogers. He did that after Steve Rogers gave him a blood transfusion, giving him his powers. I don't know that they were trying to reference the Falcon Captain America that's going on right now, but also in slightly related news, Luke Cage got his powers in another replicated version of the Super Soldier program. His was a little bit different. Someone tried to botch the experiment and he ended up turning into Power Man. And yes, we do have to say it, Peggy stuck that vial of blood in the world's worst hiding place. So I feel like that's going to come back to bite her in the ass at some point. The way they ended the episode, just the tone felt like it had an air of finality, but this is the Marvel Universe, and nothing in the Marvel Universe stays buried forever. If you remember, that was actually a line from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode with Peggy Carter. It was the episode where she locked up Whitehall, and he said, "Nothing stays buried forever." It's just a nice callback to that. Here's my big question for you guys. Do you think that vial of Captain America blood is going to come back later in the series, or do you think it's like a red herring and we're not going to see it again? I want to believe it's the tip of the iceberg, like it's going to lead into some big Leviathan thing. They're trying to make their own super soldiers, something crazy. But next week, again, like I said, we're going to follow up with the Howling Commandos. We'll go to Russia, so be sure to subscribe to get that video. They're supposedly going to be meeting a mysterious young girl with red hair, so take that as you will. Just to talk about the Easter egg, so I already mentioned Black Widow stuff from the Black Widow program, but the Stan Lee cameo reading the paper, it seemed pretty casual. I thought it might be another Timely Comics reference. Back in the early days when Stan Lee was first working for Timely Comics, but before they became Marvel, most comics were sold at newsstands. Selling them in bookstores and even comic book stores didn't become a big thing till later. If you did spot any other Easter eggs in the episode, just write them below in the comments. But moving on to thumbs down, there was really like one big thumbs down, and I would say it's like, Chad Michael Murray like being an asshole to everyone in the SSR office. I felt like him speechifying to all those people. I felt like none of those scenes worked really well. I think the show will address it in a satisfying way at some point, eventually, like Peggy punching him in the face repeatedly. I mean, you can't have him be that awful of a person without letting her give him the business end of a baseball bat. He seems really sinister too, so I wouldn't be surprised if he turned out to be a double agent, like Ward style, where Ward turned out to be Hydra. In related news, Game of Thrones Season 5 trailer should be coming tonight, might be tomorrow. I'll prioritize it whenever it posts. I'm also doing an Arrow Flash DC Q&A, so I'll do that after I do my Game of Thrones trailer video. Generally, I'm really pumped up going into this weekend. It's going to be a really good weekend. We got the Super Bowl too. A lot of Super Bowl trailers coming. So while you guys wait for all that other stuff to come, just in case you haven't seen it yet, you can click here to rewatch the Fantastic Four trailer. I did a breakdown and kind of explain how it pulls from the Ultimate Comics origin story. And you can click here for last week's Agent Carter video. Thank you so much for watching, so let's all high five. I'll see you guys tonight.